Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thanks for joining me again this week at our new early start time. I hope everyone is staying well. Hope everyone enjoyed Father's Day weekend last weekend. This is the 67th installment of my weekly virtual office hour address. We've now reached 466 days since the March 16th, 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of the virus, and we're now open up again. And so hopefully things are getting better. More than a year ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop hours, office hours, into a live stream address, and I haven't missed a week since. People continue to say that they really appreciate hearing weekly from their mayor, and these virtual office hours are great because they also are enriching to me. They allow me to reflect back on the week, as also just as a chance to give you updates, answer some of your questions, and of course, just provide some general words of encouragement, probably to a larger group than would be at the coffee shop in any given week. But thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale during this time. I hope everyone's safe, being healthy. And as I said before, I'll be changing my background art every week. So these are art provided by our Sunnyvale artists. Today's piece is called Study in Pink by Andrea Catura. So if you want to purchase that art, please reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the artist. So let's go ahead and get to what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. So last Wednesday, California officially became fully open with no capacity limits. No one is required to wear a mask indoors unless they are not vaccinated. And so Governor Newsom also had a big press conference. He had his last Vax for the Win lottery game show at Universal Studios this time, and 10 people were chosen to receive $1.5 million. So, for those people that received that, nobody in our county was one of those recipients, but it was just an encouragement to get people to get the vaccine. And looking at the numbers, there was a general uptick between 30 people getting $50,000, 10 people getting 1.5 million, and then all the efforts from the county, from the different counties around the state, free tickets to Universal Studios and Six Flags. And from our standpoint, the county has been giving away lots of music and sports tickets to people that are getting their vaccination shot. So although it's positive and we've seen an uptick, after a steady downturn from the number of new people getting vaccinated over the last few weeks, we have actually seen a slight increase. So that's a positive thing from that standpoint from a California vaccination standpoint. And then the governor talked about Cal OSHA, and Cal OSHA had done some flip-flopping the last few weeks, but they finally resolved those issues as far as what the new rules. So the requirements for partition in workplaces have now been where people cannot be socially distanced is now removed. Employers also must provide face coverings for employees at no cost upon request, and must ensure that unvaccinated workers wear them indoors and in vehicles. And so businesses also must provide N95 respirators or the equivalent upon request from unvaccinated employees, and physical distancing would only be required after major outbreaks. So things are generally back to normal. That being said, most people are still wearing their masks when indoors. I think people have gotten into that habit, and I think it's a good habit until we're sure that COVID is completely behind us. And then last Tuesday night, Sunnyvale Council met. It started with a special order of the day for Immigrant Heritage Month. And so, immigrants have made such a big difference in our country, in California. Marcella Gutierrez, the executive director of Siren, the Services, Immigrant Rights, and Education Network, joined us to receive that proclamation. And I think it was very positive. From a Sunnyvale standpoint, more than 50% of our residents weren't born in the U.S., and so it kind of reflects the melting pot that is Sunnyvale. And so I was happy to kick off the meeting with that. And then council had our last meeting to adopt the budget. So we adopted the 2021-2022 budget. There were some minor changes to add, basically someone to look at a Department of Cultural Inclusion, as well as speeding up the implementation of the Corn Palace Park. So those were kind of the two add-ons at the last minute that council did. And then last Wednesday, Congress declared June 19th as Juneteenth, as our 12th federal holiday. So this is, the date that really celebrates the real end of slavery, when the last slaves heard that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed. So it was the first federal holiday that we've added since MLK Day was established in 1983. And the day has actually been celebrated for a while now. The county had already made it as an official holiday, and there was a little bit of a scramble around the U.S. whether or not Friday was going to be a federal holiday this year. So, and from a Juneteenth standpoint, last Wednesday night I was celebrating Juneteenth at Metro City Diner. The AACSA, the African American Community Service Agency, held a Juneteenth comedy event. So they had a week of events around the county, and I was happy to help host it here in Sunnyvale. So that was actually fantastic. A lot of Black comedians were there, and I think it was great to kind of celebrate Juneteenth on the day that it actually passed through Congress. And then on Thursday, of course, Biden actually signed it into law. So really, really a great week last week. And then last Thursday and Friday, we had flex alerts around California. It was because of such a heat wave and worries about the need to save energy, especially, the period between like 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. So, people were encouraged to conserve energy wherever they could, not using your washing machine, clothes dryer, or dishwasher, except for outside of those periods. And then if you want additional, and we're going to have another warm weekend, not as bad, but Sunday is supposed to be fairly warm. But if you want any information, you can always go to flexalert.org and receive tips on how you conserve energy. And then last Thursday was the Special Olympics run through Sunnyvale. And so, of course, it always goes through Sunnyvale at the hottest part of the day. We raise money for Special Olympics, and so it's the police officers are normally the main people that are basically carrying that torch throughout California. And so Santa Clara passed the torch to us at their border, and I ran with our public safety officers as we delivered it at the Mountain View border to the Mountain View Police Department and the Los Altos Police Department. So thanks to everyone who came out and cheered us on. It was good, and we raised more money than we did last year, so it was actually good from that standpoint too. And then last Thursday evening, council interviewed our applicants for the redistricting committee. So we interviewed 20 of our 22 applicants, and I was really happy with the diverse backgrounds of our applicants. It really represented a lot of different needs and a lot of different perspectives from a city standpoint, and I think that'll be good. So this is ultimately we're choosing a 7-member committee, which will then help with a certain number of alternates, which will then use the 2020 census data to redraw our district boundaries from the 6 districts that were chosen just last year from a council standpoint. Sunday was, of course, Father's Day, and so happy to for all those fathers out there. Hopefully, they had a good Sunday with their families. And then, as far as this week is concerned, it's been pretty quiet. On Wednesday, the California Secretary of State confirmed that the recall of Gavin Newsom will go forward. So, voters had been given 30 days to request their signatures to be removed from the petition of about 1.7 million signatures, and that period lasted from the end of April to June 8th. But only I think 43 signatures were withdrawn from the recall petition, and now the California Department of Finance will start estimating the cost for that recall election, and as far as that special election, we'll see where it actually falls. The department has 30 days to complete those calculations. Then the legislative body budget committee will then have 30 days to review and comment on the estimated costs. And so after that, then the lieutenant governor will set the date for the election between 60 and 80 days later. So the way things are looking, it's most likely October, maybe November before that recall election will go forward. And then let's see, also happening just yesterday, I think that was the big news for the week, was that President Biden announced that they had reached a bipartisan agreement for the infrastructure bill. And so, this is basically mainly a focus on the traditional infrastructure, roads, bridges, ports, waterways, broadband. Definitely there was more that was part of the original Biden bill. And in listening to a discussion with Anna Eshoo yesterday evening, there will be most likely reconciliation agreement on those other items. But kind of the main budget bill has been approved, and so I haven't seen all that, all the components of that yet. I know that I've been working with Congressmember Khanna's office for a while now, and from a city standpoint, we gave the congressman multiple projects that were conceivably available to the infrastructure bill. At least according to Congressman Khanna, I was actually happy that what was supposed to be part of that was the Evelyn Avenue multi-use trail project. And so that, that's been a project of mine for many years now. So when I first got on council in 2016, beginning in 2017, that was a study issue that was unanimous amongst council to look at studying. Then it got kind of held back for a while and merged into our active transportation plan. Our active transportation plan was finally approved last August, and part of that vision was the Evelyn Trail. And so the Evelyn Trail project is the concept of creating a multi-use pedestrian and bike path along Evelyn Avenue between downtown Sunnyvale and downtown Mountain View. And so, I think this would be a very positive thing, especially from an east-west standpoint. We have a lot of north-south trails, or at least, like the Bragas overpasses, and the east and west channels are being worked on by the water district, but we really don't have anything good east and west. And so this especially would connect the two Caltrain stations from downtown Sunnyvale to Mountain View. It would make it easier for those people to connect up to the Stevens Creek Trail right there at the Evelyn interchange. And there were other projects that were there. The Bernardo undercrossing, the grade separations at Sunnyvale and Mary Avenue for the Caltrain tracks. The extension of Stevens Creek Trail from Remington to Fremont Avenue. So there were multiple projects there, but I was happy to see that the Congressmember added the Evelyn Trail, and that would ultimately receive $3.8 million as far as that federal bill is concerned, as far as an infrastructure bill is concerned. So happy to see that. Haven't seen the actual wording yet to make sure that it's actually part of that. But when I was hearing from the congressman earlier in the week, that was supposed to be part of that package. So we'll see if it's there. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed that will move forward. Let's go ahead and get to the weekly numbers. As far as COVID and vaccinations are concerned, from a national standpoint, we now have 33.4 million cases, about another 100,000 cases in the last week. Nationally, we've surpassed 175 million vaccinated. That's about 65%, 65.7% of adults with at least one dose, and about 56% of adults that are fully vaccinated. And from a death toll standpoint, we just passed yesterday 600,000 deaths. So we've had over 1,000 in the last week, but it's kind of somber, to say the least, of having that many people die because of COVID-19 and all the complications that people have had. For California, we're still around 3.7 million positive cases. We're averaging about 1,000 cases a day now, one of the lowest rates in the nation. And then from vaccinations administered, we've now surpassed 40.9 million, which is less than about 1 million in the last week. But in general, it's positive. We're still at 13th with on states with residents with at least one dose, about 60%, and then we're at number 18 on states with residents that are fully vaccinated, with 48.5% of our residents that are fully vaccinated. And from a county standpoint, last weekend we surpassed 80%. So it's the best county of counties with populations greater than 1.5 million. So it's we're doing fantastic from a county standpoint. Our number of cases continues to trend downward, but having that many people fully vaccinated is just, or 70%, 70.5% fully vaccinated of those 12 and older, but 80% of the county with at least one dose, which is really fantastic. I continue to do a lot of advocating for our city. Continue discussions with the county supervisors and county health from a testing standpoint. If you need to find a location to get tested, and still people are still being exposed or think that they might get exposed, you can go to sccfreetest.org. And then if you need to get vaccinated, you can go to sccfreevax.org. And we have multiple locations. El Camino Health, the El Camino Health vaccination site at 1300 Mott Avenue is still going on, so you can go there to get vaccinated. And then from a senior standpoint, we're having pop-ups at different locations. We have, I think, another one coming up at Fremont High School, and we've had one at Plaza del Rey last weekend. But even the city staff is actually helping out. So if you are a senior or a senior that has not been vaccinated, care managers at our senior center are assisting seniors so that they can get vaccination appointments, and working with seniors who are homebound so that the county's in-home vaccination service can get to them. And so if you need assistance, please contact the senior center at 408-730-7360. And there's also vaccinations happening at the Mayview Community Health Center right at Columbia Neighborhood Center. So, there's lots of places to get vaccinated. A lot of us have already been vaccinated. So kudos to all of you that have done your job and got vaccinated. Just as a reminder, you can always go to sccfreevax.org to figure out the best place for you to get your shot. So And now I'll update you on some of the upcoming events. So a lot is happening this weekend. So tomorrow, Saturday the 26th, the Sunnyvale Heritage Park Museum is holding a gigantic garage sale, vintage antiques. And so you can go there from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And there are, I think, even the museum shop is open, but there are lots of interesting treasures, and the usual garage sale items that you can find there. But you can go there. It's located at 571 Remington. If you haven't been to the museum before, it's really a great experience. You can see for a large degree the history of Sunnyvale there, and they're open normally Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from noon to 4 p.m. And it's right behind the community center, so it's next to the big barn. If you get a chance to take a look at it, but definitely if you haven't visited, it's a great day to visit, and especially tomorrow. They collected a lot of items over the last year during shelter in place and not been able to have that garage sale. So I'm sure it'll be a fantastic event tomorrow morning. And then the Friends of the Sunnyvale Library will be having a June book sale from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow. So if you can go by the Sunnyvale Library and enjoy that book sale. So those are two events that will be happening this weekend. Uh, There's also a Pride picnic at Baylands Park from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. if you want to come out to that and join the fun. So that'll be happening on Sunday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So happy, and I'll be there for a little while, but it's happy to celebrate Pride Month here in Sunnyvale. Silicon Valley Pride, Fabulous Sunnyvale, other organizations are contributing to that great event. And then next Tuesday, June 29th, Council will have its last meeting for the month. And it will be a long meeting. There's lots of items on the agenda. It'll start with a special word of the day for Parks and Recreation Month, but there will be several things, one of which is an ordinance basically amending our below market rate ownership housing. So Sunnyvale was very forward thinking, and for all the condos that are sent that are built here in Sunnyvale, a certain percentage, and it used to be, I think it started out at 10%. It moved to 12.5% in the early 2000s, and we're looking at moving that up to most likely 15%. So we'll see what council decides upon. But we used to have the same thing for apartments, and then basically a court case removed that. And when that was finally overturned a few years ago from a legislative standpoint, or from a state proposition standpoint, at that point, what we could do from a city standpoint was we reinstalled that and then set that percentage at 15%. So 5% is extremely low, and 10% is very low for all the new apartments being built. But our below market rate inclusionary requirement for condos has been there for many years. It's been 12.5% for a while now, and one of the things of the housing study that came back last year was that we could increase that, and that's been on my item list to get done as quickly as possible. It's taken about 6 months of this year to finally get that onto our agenda and get the appropriate staff report written, but we are finally going to have that in front of council on Tuesday night. We'll be appointing our applicants to the redistricting committee. So that commission, went through those interviews last week, and now we'll choose our 7 primary committee members, and then we'll also be choosing some alternates. And then we're also going to be looking at adopting an emergency ordinance for temporary suspending evictions for the non-payment of rent for residential tenants. And we're looking at extending that through September 30th. And that's been taken up over this week by several cities. The county took it up, although they only dealt with the unincorporated areas. There might be something from a state level that they're looking at that might come through today, but because we can't wait for the state, I've been pushing our state assembly people on this issue for multiple weeks now, and there might be something announced today, but we need to do something from a city standpoint, so we'll be looking to extend that through September 30th. And then let's see, let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. We're moving fairly quick this week. Cindy asked, what will replace Macy's? So the demolition of Macy's finished yesterday finally. They finally took down all the building, and there's lots of cleanup that needs to be done, but what will replace it is first underground parking, and then two 7-story buildings. So they're kind of separating that so that Francis can go south from the Caltrain station all the way into a big plaza where there'll be underground parking, and then that of the two 7-story buildings, there will be retail on the bottom, and then 6 stories of office space above. So I think, I've looked at the design that was approved from the Planning Commission, and I think it's actually, looks very unique. Lots of green, lots of, and I think especially how that first floor looks will really contribute to kind of that flow coming from historic Murphy Avenue down Murphy into City Line. Susan asked, what is happening with the downtown retail? So there's multiple, cell phone stores that are open, AT&T and Verizon. There's the salon that's open, and then Ulta Beauty will be opening sometime in July. And then there's several other interior stores that are being worked on inside, but haven't opened yet from that standpoint. Rosemary asked, and multiple people asked, what are the plans to keep Murphy Avenue open only to pedestrians? And I've talked about this before. In the short term, we're keeping that open. Something will be coming back to council in the next month or two to talk about how long we keep that, open only to pedestrians and closed to cars. This week, multiple cities approved measures. On Tuesday, Palo Alto Council decided to keep the streets open to pedestrians until the end of September. And then on Tuesday, also Mountain View City Council voted to extend that closure of Castro Street, of kind of different portions of Castro Street, until January 3rd. And then Menlo Park extended its closure of Santa Cruz Avenue until January also. So I've heard in council hears from multiple letters from residents who are saying that they want to keep that. Keep those letters coming. I think it's positive, and most importantly, talk to your businesses downtown. I thought it was going to be a simple conversion, but there's bigger issues from that standpoint. It's not just, we're closing down the street. There's the question of fire access, making sure that the fire engines can go through there. So it's whether or not we need to keep kind of a single lane open for pedestrian traffic, bike traffic, and then if there's an emergency, it's easy for the fire department to make it down that street in the long run. It's also questions about state dollars that we get. We get state dollars from because of the number of streets that we have open, and ultimately that will reduce that. And then there's also traffic studies that assume that street was open, and we need to make sure that we do everything from a legal standpoint before we finally close Murphy Avenue for good. David, Keisha, and others ask what's going to happen with the eviction moratorium. And so, as I said previously, we have an item on next Tuesday night's meeting to talk about that eviction moratorium extension. Maybe something will happen from a state standpoint later today. From a CDC standpoint, from a national standpoint, I think they did a 1 month restriction yesterday. So they announced that there were some differences, and I think it's better that the state did it as far as kind of what's been done. The from a Governor Newsom talked earlier this week about, oh well, we're kind of repackaged some of his speech about the money that's been set aside for landlords, for residents to pay some of the back rent. That being said, I've heard that people who've put in for into that program back in March still haven't received their money. And I think there was an article, I think in the Mercury News yesterday, that a lot of people who really have been trying to get, some of their back rent paid are still waiting, and conceivably some of them have even been evicted. So hopefully the legislature makes a bigger change from that standpoint. Manzano asked, will there be an Art and Wine Festival this year? And yes, there will be. It will be the weekend of October 2nd and 3rd. It'll be a little bit smaller, a little bit different because of the construction going on where the Macy's is, and a little bit of things have changed from that standpoint. But definitely the chamber is planning to do basically close certain of those streets and have an Art and Wine Festival. We'll see what it actually looks like from that standpoint. Any other questions? And as far as, I think, where did that money come from? I think it's the question from an infrastructure bill standpoint. I haven't seen, what the infrastructure, so this is the nuts and bolts of the infrastructure bill, which I haven't had a chance to go through. That will be some of my reading for the weekend, but this is ultimately a lot of these bills are, what is it, increased taxes on the highest class, the highest, the richest people is what I heard earlier on. There's a lot of kind of changing existing funding in order to meet what those infrastructure bill requirements are. So I'll hopefully have a better answer for you next week, or I'll respond back to your question as far as that's concerned. David asked, is the city going to take part in the Yellow Whistle campaign? And yes, we are. Sunnyvale finally received a donation of 500 whistles from the Yellow Whistle campaign. I've been working on this for a little while. We were supposed to get those whistles at an event last month, and then they basically gave away all their whistles. So it took a while. Finally closed the loop the end of last week, and was able to collect the whistles from those organizers. So the campaign is really about raising awareness about discrimination against Asian Americans by using yellow whistles to sound the alarm against rising anti-Asian hate. And so it's really a safety device to give elderly residents, a tool to call for help if they are being hurt, if they're being abused, and they're also just a symbol of self-protection and in solidarity with them. And so those whistles are now available for pickup at the Sunnyvale Senior Center. Staff will also be distributing them through the Senior Nutrition Program and local nonprofit organizations serving Sunnyvale seniors. So if you know a senior that really thinks that they might would like that yellow whistle for their own protection, for their own safety, and just for their own peace of mind, you can give the senior center a call and find out how to pick one of those up. Jennifer asked, when is there going to be music on Murphy Avenue this summer? And so starting at the beginning of this month, or actually starting at the end of last month, we've had DJ on Murphy Avenue on Wednesday and Thursday nights. That'll go to the end of July. And it's more background music, no real dancing is there. But our normal Wednesday night rock and Saturday night jazz will be starting in August. So pretty much throughout the month of August, you'll have some, finally in-person music and dance and all that along Murphy Avenue. So we'll see, how that's going. But I think, things people are looking forward to being out, to hearing that music, and ultimately, seeing some friends. I've been happy to be on Murphy Avenue for the last few weeks. After our morning live stream, I've been going to being seen for coffee and seeing some friends, and just happy to be out either there or in the evening out for dinner, and just having people stop by randomly. I think that's when one of the hardest things about the pandemic is you don't have that random meeting of people that you used to have, or if you did, they were masked or you were masked, and you might not even recognize them. So from that standpoint, it's good to see things starting to open up and people feeling safe to be out and mingling again. So hopefully, hopefully you're out there, and I'm looking forward to the beginning of August, and seeing people, even more people in person. So let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. I've been especially proud of Sunnyvale over the last year. Your life has been uncertain, new issues always seem to come up, but your actions have really made a difference. You still can get your vaccination or help somebody else to get their vaccination, if you know of someone that hasn't been able to get theirs yet. But continue to build community wherever you can. I'm proud to see Sunnyvale residents pulling together to help others in need, and really sharing what they have over the last year. Sunnyvale will emerge from this, this long, and we're not out of the woods yet, but we'll emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We'll get through this together. Thanks for listening. To everyone, stay cool this weekend. Have a great weekend. Take care. Goodbye.